cutting-edge guests, awesome, uncensored, jaw-dropping information, plus funny memes, good deeds, and loads of laughter. Kind of have it all. Ladies and gentlemen, if your soul is awake, then welcome, because you're in the right place. All right, you sovereign souls, welcome back to the first Send It Sunday of the new year, the Jubilee year 2026, America's 250. We have seen incredible results from the fuck around, find out policy at all levels, financial, spiritual, cultural, ideological. Going to cover it all here. So the FAFO policy, U.S. military is active around the world. We're going to get into that. The Venezuelan liberty, what does that mean to Venezuela, Canadians, the UK? The RV, which is coming up, has already been initiated. As I mentioned before, the Iraqi dinar, the freedom coming to the people of Iran and other places around the world. A large aspect of this freedom is due to the Monroe Doctrine, which goes back to the Monroe Doctrine. We're going to cover this, the true justice from stolen elections, XRP to the moon, and what this means for you over these next few months, the year ahead. And once again, silver completely punishing the deep state, fiat, federal, central banks, no reserve, not even federal whatsoever, crushing the cabal massively. True justice around the world, XRP on rails, quantum financial system has already kicked off. But what does this mean for the world? We'll see you in the live stream. And that live stream is now. Welcome, everybody. I'm your host, Brad Wozny. You know we stand on ethos, love, levity, liberty, because love is the most powerful form of anything in the universe. Levity is important from an elevation standpoint, and laughter. And liberty gives us freedom, which we're seeing go around the world right now. If you're brand new, Bling Buddha's our mascot, firing red pills of awakening from his SIG 226 9mm. Love that weapon. And the P320 AXG Legion, by the way, is much better in my opinion. But when we started this 4 years ago, it's a 226, and we know we've got some SEAL operators out there right now still leveraging that fantastic pistol. Now, the thing about the Bling Buddha, right? And our logo, for anybody who's never been here before, and the logo you have an O, which is the heart. The I is Archangel Michael's sword, and the cross representing Yahshua, Jesus Christ. We have the tree of life and soul, the sound of unlimited love. And what is Buddha holding over here? The Bling Buddha, our mascot. That is a lotus flower and a dove of peace on his shoulder. Peace through strength, right? So he's got the awakening and knowledge in one hand and the ability to defend himself if necessary. And he's got the lotus flower of life, the dove of peace, and the gold chain around his neck, and a silver XRP token since the beginning. Right there. So here we are in the golden age, Aquarian age, silver. How can it hit 1,188 an ounce? We'll be building this up so everybody can see all of this. If you haven't paid attention to our last Send It Sunday show or the previous show I did on Jasara, because it's 100% there. And I know we have the odd normie and the odd troll comes over. Jasara, when am I getting my trillions of dollars? This is not how it's being rolled out right now, right? It's not the old go and hand in your personal laptop and give your photos over at some redemption center and get all this BS. No, because by the way, that is not sovereign, and that is returning us to sovereignty and to the great omnipresence of divinity, God, across the planet right now. Where are we going to start? Where we're going to go right from here is immediately into Yahshua, Christ. And this was New Year's Eve at Mar-a-Lago. Incredible. Watch this painting, 25-second clip of this artist. Very much like I've had Scott Lebedo on here several times before, the Patriot Street Fighter artist in New York City. Look at this. She painted Jesus Christ at his New Year's Eve party. Watch it. Woo. It's amazing. I've got shivers, literally shivers right now, and I'm in the tropics. And God bumps is what we call them, right? We used to call them goosebumps. So that just resonates. And then President Trump himself auctioned that off. $1 million went to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, and the other $1 million went to the Sheriff's Department. Do you ever see hair sniffing pedo Peter, aka 10% for the big guy Biden, do something like that? Or Barry Soetoro, known as Obama? No, never. Never saw the Clintons do it either. Or George Sheff, renamed Bush 1, right? Oh boy, spicy stuff. That's what we're getting into. Now, moving on. We've got to talk about cleaning and securing the Western Hemisphere. Many of you have heard the citation, or what's been cited, excuse me, not a citation, of the Monroe Doctrine. I would encourage everybody, right on the screen you're watching, the Substack newsletter website for Major General Paul E. Valley, U.S. Army, retired, West Point, 1961, who co-wrote this article with his best friend, Thomas McInerney, Lieutenant General, United States Air Force, retired, West Point, 1959. So if you want it in full, you want to comprehend all the way back to the 18th century what the Monroe Doctrine was from President Monroe and what it means and why President Trump is enacting it right now. And as he said in the press conference yesterday at Mar-a-Lago after the Maduro capture, which is incredible, we're going to cover some of that here too as well. Hey, this goes back to being passed in 1823. The Monroe Doctrine was articulated then in his 7th annual message to Congress to push out any influence from European powers elsewhere. So basically, he's saying that everything in the Western Hemisphere, North America, Central America, South America, is under our protection, our sphere of interest, and FAFO. Now here I want to scroll down to the last paragraph. And once again, just, put it into your browser, Paul E. Valley, Substack. It'll come right up there with the Major General. Recommend, if anybody can do it, donate to their foundation, purchase the books from the generals. These men at 88 and 86 years old, respectively, are still publishing books for America, which President Trump and his cabinet are reading and leveraging. They've got incredible information here, and Major General Valley will sign the books if you purchase it from him, right? So back to this last paragraph. Listen to this. The final paragraph reads as this from their Substack post yesterday. The Western Hemisphere must be aligned to protect the area and countries from the influence of China, CCP, its borders, essential and rare minerals, trade routes, mutual trade without tariffs, security arrangements, and democratic principles of governing. It is recommended that initiatives be pursued and engage Cuba to be a new territory of the United States as Puerto Rico is. The Panama Canal should be managed by the United States and Panama because the United States built it, right? The United States paid for it. It's now back under their control. Greenland as well is to become a U.S. territory. That's already out there. It's a done deal. It's happening right now. So they're just hammering out, the verbiage, but Greenland is a U.S. territory this year. So that's happened, right? You just haven't seen the final stroke of the pen. It's getting done. Then it goes on to say the treasures of materials in the Arctic and Antarctica must be protected. Maybe Canada becomes a part of the United States. Many Canadians would support that, especially the middle and western provinces of Canada. So Saskatchewan, Alberta, parts of middle and central British Columbia, and then even up into the Yukon. And the Monroe Doctrine for a 21st century realignment of the Western Hemisphere. It's here. There will be changes in the Western Hemisphere in the years to come, led by the United States, as changes are coming. So that's a great foreshadow because, as many of you know who have been in the audience here for at least over a year, Juan Savin called me on December 26, 2024, so a little over a year ago, Boxing Day evening, as a matter of fact. And when he called me, we talked about a number of things. And I've shared it on shows, and then I've had him on the show, right? Himself, myself, Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bossi, who was our first kind of show together, had a good little Trinity pack with the three of us. And then, Juan's been on at least 2 more times, just him and I, over the course of the year. And I brought up again what he has stated, and he stated this openly, and that over the course of 4 years, what you're seeing is that, and this is right to his quote, direct quote from Juan. We're going to take Greenland. We're going to welcome Canada back in the United States. We're going to take Australia and New Zealand. Now, what might Juan be referencing with regards to that? And for those of you know, in the sovereign side, right, as the sovereign soul show, not about the legal system, which is headquartered in the City of London, the British Accreditation Registry System, which was set up to steal the wealth, and they just create laws and rules and whatnot and take it away from you, as we've seen. We're talking about from a sovereignty side. And we know that, and it's also referenced in the Law of War Manual, we go all the way back to Article 11, 1777 on November 15th. And this is the first Constitution of the United States. And in that, and I'll just show it here because you can all go find it yourself, people, and go online and double check that. Here's the National Archives in the United States, in Washington, and it's right here. And Article 11 welcomed Canada into the United States of America. I have a video here from great man, David Straight. May he rest in peace. And listen to what he says as he reads it aloud to all of you.
Article 9 says Canada acceding to this confederation and joining in the measures of the United States shall be admitted into and entitled to all the advantages of this union. But no other colony shall be admitted into the same unless such admission is to be agreed upon by at least 9 states. So right there in the Articles of Confederation, Canada is part of the United States. Don't let them tell you any differently.
Now, how cool is that, right? Let me take you over here. We remember the presser on the White House lawn, and President Trump, remember, this is when he was raising the 2 flagpoles, equal distance apart, right? Equal height, north lawn, south lawn, and numbers matter, communications matter. And he told the press then, and he also told them one time earlier than that, getting off Air Force One, he said in the summertime, he goes, well, I was the hunted and now I'm the hunter. And you're seeing this on the screen from the White House, reposting this on December 31st, New Year's Eve. I was the hunted, now I'm the hunter. So his entire cabinet is around the table, and immediately to President Trump's left in this portrait is Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. This is freaking phenomenal because they're telling you what's happening and they're telling you what is also to come. And whether you've been following Q or you've been following the show or you're just waking up to a lot of what has been happening in this literal plan to save the world, remember what we're sitting here doing is in 2015, President Trump was selected by over 200 flag officers. Now in the American military, a flag officer is general or admiral. So, and 2 of those men I just showed right here who were part of that and still are. Lieutenant General McInerney, U.S. Air Force retired. What did he do? Well, when he graduated West Point, went from the United States Military Academy, went to Air Force selection, he flew 407 combat missions in Vietnam on 4 tours. He volunteered for his 4th tour, right? And Major General Polly Valley went to airborne school, went to Ranger school. So he became a Ranger, airborne, went over to Vietnam, did 2 tours. And in between tour 1 and 2, which were 1-year-long tours, combat operations, combat veteran, he rewrote the U.S. Army Sniper Manual, which hadn't been updated since Korea. And then went all the way through 32-year career. And when he retired in 1993, he retired from the United States Army as the commander of Army Forces Pacific Region. So he was based in Hawaii. And he did nearly 20 years in Special Operations and Special Forces Command. And these men are still interfacing with those here. Remember, Major General Valley also co-wrote America First. So everybody else going out here, America First. And we have America 250, the Jubilee year. That man is 50% responsible for the America First policy handed to President Trump for 2016. It was himself and Brigadier General Jones from the United States Air Force retired who wrote the America First policy. And what you're seeing happen as well against the cartels designated as foreign terrorist organizations, as General Valley has said here on this show and other shows over the last several years, he is the one who wrote Operation Sinaloa, and from a defensive posture and then an offensive operations against the cartels. So I would encourage everybody to make sure you're on the Substack, make sure you're following exactly what they're putting out, because these men are not mincing words when they publish anything from their Stand Up America US Foundation. And remember, General Valley is the man that Obama targeted on open news in the early 2000s and literally said, well, there's this General Valley who wants to take 250,000 troops, come into Washington, D.C. and take it back for the people. And then ISIS placed a bounty on his head. So these men are incredible national treasures still serving us today, just like President Trump is in his age. And so this plan to save the world is global. And we're going to move on to the FAFO part very shortly. But one of the things that you should find out if you saw the press conference yesterday, if you didn't, it was stated multiple times, both from President Trump, then Secretary Hegseth, and then General Raisin Kane, head of the Joint Chiefs, right? And then Secretary of State Marco Rubio. I kind of did a quick reframe of all of that once again. But the order was initiated before Christmas to go get Maduro, to get in there. And they kept saying, we're waiting for the right conditions. Every day we're watching, waiting for the right conditions. You know, you have lots, right? Weather, security, where is he? We got to make sure if it really is Maduro we're going after or not, and all of that kind of stuff. And then they executed the plan. That plan, that capture yesterday, January 3rd, think about the incredible astronomical and astrological and gematria alignments of what this happened. The date January 3 yesterday of when they took down Maduro and his wife coincides with the anniversary of January 3, 1990, when they captured Noriega. And it also coincides with January 2020, when they took out Khomeini. And Scavino even posted it yet again just yesterday, sitting there at Mar-a-Lago with Trump and Devin Nunes on January 3, 2020. Now, the year of the snake, we're still in the Chinese old year, right? The Chinese New Year starts February 16th, 2026. So we're in the year of the snake now for the Chinese New Year. 1990, January 30, on Operation Just Cause, where Colonel Sellers you've seen on here and Michael Jaco, they both met each other. Michael in the SEAL teams, Colonel Sellers in the unit, Delta Force. While he was hunting Noriega, he stated that, so I'm not speaking out of turn here, and he stated that publicly. And then Michael is doing what he's doing in the SEAL teams. That happened in the year of the snake. So January 3, 1990, Just Cause, got Noriega, year of the snake. January 3 yesterday, year of the snake, and it was the year of the rat that they took down Khomeini, right? And that was the major general running the Iranian Republican Guard, who was, here to launch nuclear war upon America. And remember, anybody who's a neighbor of America and a nuclear bomb goes off, you're affected, whether you're in Canada or wherever the trade winds are going off. They took them out. So this is not only a plan to save the world from those guys. We also have a plan to save the world from all of the deep state cockroach minions all across the place that we call home. Beautiful earth and protecting all sentient life. So when we look at the Monroe Doctrine, we look at the structure of what we're going to have. You can see Greenland up here. Great image. Thank you, Grok, for creating this image. The Arctic Ocean, you're going to have massive security all across. And then you also will likely have some incredible agreements that are made for trade and security, of course, by all means and all stretch of this, across Central and South America, from Mexico all on down to Antarctica, completely secured, both sides, the Atlantic and the Pacific side, by the might of the United States military. That's what's happening now. It's not what's to come. What's to come is the image of this picture that hopefully in the next few months, we're celebrating July 4, 2026, a global celebration of the Jubilee, of literally wiping out and erasing the deep state across the face of the earth. And just like President Trump was posting last night, right? Winning. This is Trump's own post of what they say. Here's Maduro, ready to go, USS Iwo Jima. And I know we've had a lot of, different interesting comms that have come out online because Maduro seems to have changed outfits 4 or 5 freaking times in like 16, 17, 18 hours since his capture, right? Well, we can go down that rabbit hole too, because it goes back to the presidential executive action directives, the Red Pete's folder from 2018. And remember, we have the sword dance, the capitulation across the world, but we also have to get rid of the deep state at all levels of government. And it's not just government, it's business, entrepreneurs, all the schools, the medical systems, the medical industrial complex, the military industrial complex, you name it. There's deep state, there's minions, there's complete vaxxed normies, right, who are out there who are still doing harm to people. And in sovereignty, that's not what it's about. You saw what went down last night too. President Trump kept saying, he said, there's Venezuelans here. This is in the press conference. He said, there's Venezuelans here in America. Some really want to go home and some will probably stay, but all will receive remediation. And with Venezuela, what you're looking at too, from the oil reserves and the precious minerals in the ground, it's rated at having, at the statistic that I saw, which was published, 303 billion barrels of oil manufacturing capacity. That is just incredible. When you think about that, is massive. And it is number 2 in the world for the capability to produce that. And they're all here in this hemisphere, right? Perhaps, by the way, this is a nice little foreshadowing of what's to come. I can't remember where we got this map from, but it's just awesome. So everybody can have a good little laugh as you go through here from the Monroe Doctrine. But I want to give a lot of kudos to the members of the military and all the support and the intelligence agencies working at a benevolent aspect to go and take out the deep state. Just announced today, once again, Delta Force was the tip of the spear in the capture of the Venezuela dictator. General Kane said yesterday that there were over 150 aircraft with launched from 20 bases, as well as on the on ground and on sea. And that was an orchestration of taking out the defenses from the narco-terrorist cartel, right? So we're literally in the FAFO, and President Trump is warning everybody else. I mean, it's time for them to come. And remember, we know a lot about the executive orders here. Derek and I do the shows almost every single week for all of you on the executive orders still in place. But just go ahead, if you're brand new to the show, you've never seen this, look up Executive Order 13818 and 13848 and when those were enacted, and the fact that they never been revoked or rescinded whatsoever during the Biden regime, right? And President Trump's doing a great job just trolling everyone. And here's a video he posted on True Social yesterday, right after the capture.
Aquí lo espero en Miraflores. No se tarde en llegar, cobarde.
I just got 3 things to say. God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen, start your engine.
Love it, right? So there's some real kick-ass taking names coming down the pike. So Trump has already warned Colombian president, narco-terrorist, importing cocaine, sending it up there, killing Americans, addicting them, said he better watch his ass. He literally said that in the press conference yesterday. He better watch his ass. And of course, now we have multiple, at least 10 C-17s confirmed at air base in the United Kingdom beside Gloucester, CFB, excuse me, I almost said CFB. That's Canadian for Canadian Forces Base, Royal Air Force Base, Fairchild. And guess what? We had reports yesterday of a ton of troops uniformed in combat dress going through the Atlanta airport and taking off on global flights everywhere. Now, when we look at this, we look at what might be happening out of Atlanta. It's reported that we just might have RAF Fairford, by the way, it was 10 C-17 Global Master 3s with the U.S. Air Force on the side arriving that have come out of what it appears to be Campbell Army Airfield in Kentucky, which houses the 101st Airborne and the 1st and 2nd Battalions of the 160th SOAR, Special Operations Aviation Regiment, right? Those guys who are flying around and the little birds and putting Delta operators, as they call them, their customers on roofs. And here we are. President Trump is getting heavy, coming in hardcore and talking about the FAFO. So this is directly from the White House this morning. FAFO. And if you remember the comms where we had it just before Christmas, and President Trump put out, the White House retruthed it, that incredible little video of the beginning of Gladiator, where you see Marcus Aurelius and the general, right, played by Russell Crowe, say, "On my signal, unleash hell." And here we have it. The signal's there, and we are rocking it at this moment in time. So I want to also confirm for the Canadians that we have it and don't have the picture we're going to show up here, show here on the show. But in May 2022, we had a major and we had a couple of, looks like, Delta unit operator members who were at the Privy Council office and extracting a lot of the computer servers. And that happened on a Saturday. And happens to be a great man that you've seen on the show here many times, Norman Traversy, right? Nationally decorated firefighter hero of the year, awarded in Canada, voted in by his peers. Also, legend from the Freedom Convoy, also a registered whistleblower with the Securities and Exchange Commission in America. Also personally thanked by President Trump in January of 2020. Also who successfully launched a lawsuit on the RCMP and Justin Trudeau and delivered notice to Trudeau in his little greasy, scummy pedo hands in 2020. That Norman Traversy confirmed it all, reported it all from the scene. And these guys were surrounded by cops on bikes. So when Trump has said, we've heard it over the years, we have it all. We have it all. Now it's the rollout and the execution of getting rid of all of the deep state by making sure that you pick them up, you take them down publicly, and of course you have the support of the public. So whether it's Mark Carney, Pierre Poilievre, the key thing for everybody to note, and while these memes are absolutely hilarious, right? What you need to know is these are just the puppets in front. It's the puppet masters in the shadows, the Soros type minions, the deep state reptilians out there, right? The ones who, like the CBC and the Global Mail today, are saying that Nicolas Maduro is a hero. And then you see some real mask-tarred, complete micro-penis, pronoun-pounding normies in certain chat groups saying, my God, that was so illegal. He took down Maduro, who once again was indicted for 10 years and had a $50 million bounty on his head as a narco-terrorist who is literally part of a network that was murdering Canadians and Americans. Yeah, fentanyl coming up, working with Hezbollah, being a safe haven and allowing that in Venezuela for Hezbollah, Hamas, other cartels, CCP operatives, and other deep state operatives, and the Iranians who wanted to go nuclear, who death to America and all of that. Well, look at what they've got now. You have a naval blockade on both sides of that part of the continent. You have a NOTAM issued, that's notice to airmen, right? You cannot fly. This is all locked airspace. Airspace is locked down by the US military. So even the Chinese delegation that was reported to have met with Maduro just hours before he was taken out, they can't go anywhere unless they have trunks. Oh, and by the way, let's also remember, because this will get into silver later, because I have a whole chunk we're doing directly on silver and gold here just very shortly on the show. By the way, they also had the precious mineral rights. So now even Trump is putting out that they are going to run, America is going to run Venezuela until you have the right to restore sovereignty, law, and order to the population. How amazing and perfect is that? there's millions of people right now. And I've got a friend and an instructor of mine. He gave me flight instruction. I mean, he's in Canada and he had to flee Venezuela, never going back there because of what they've done. Right. Well, now he has the opportunity to go back there. And as President Trump said, you know, all the people of Venezuela, the wealth will be turned on, they will be restored, and remedy will be paid to all of those who have had to flee, and all those who have fled, even if they don't get back, they're going to have remedy. That is 100% exactly where we are right now in terms of having true sovereignty for everybody across the world. And as we move forward with this, you got a lot of fun and comms which have come up, and I'm going to jump to this one right now, right? So yeah, we have that in China. These guys are going down, but on the other side, so how do you like that? Here we are is, Hezbollah is in Venezuela. Yep. Somebody put it in the chat. Yeah, that's been confirmed and known for a number of years. How do you like it this? How do you like it that President Trump and Melania, the First Lady of the United States, show up, the Lone Ranger is playing in the background, and when they show up, because we know that she sends comms with her dresses, she's wearing a silver dress. That's pretty amazing, right? So you have the ability now, because on January 1st, as reported to you, all of you over the last several months, the moment it was made public that same day by the government of China, that China has seized all exports of silver worldwide unless you have been given a trading license. And it's reported there's only 44 firms that have the ability to export silver from China. And a part of that requirement is you have to be able to produce 80 tons of silver annually in order to export, minimum, because they've got the levies and the taxes on that. So once again, we've got what is about 60% of the world's silver supply is completely, just like that, been pulled off the global markets on January 1. So this is where everybody is about to see a massive shockwave in the silver markets. Because remember, on December 31st, we had silver at a price per ounce of $130 in Japan, $95 in the UAE, and it was still around $72 spot price in the US. And there were massive, metaphorically speaking, blood in the streets from the big banks in the US. We'll cover that momentarily. If anybody has not tapped into our partner, Goldco Partner, here on the show, I highly encourage you to do so right now, because this is where you can have a free consultation with them. Call them first thing in the morning, but you can lock in and you could submit, just your email address and your name to get in line for this, because tomorrow, Monday, it'll go off the hook. Trading's already started right now, by the way, overseas. So here is President Trump, his own words, talking about it. And here is Goldco. And I'll be right back after this message. All right, you sovereign souls, now is the time to protect your money with gold and silver if you already have not. And if you are and you have a chance to do so, I highly encourage to do so even more, because gold and silver will launch the golden age, which Commander-in-Chief Trump has continuously referenced.
The dollar is going down, and it's not a pretty picture, and it's not being sustained by proper policy and proper thinking. This was an opportunity, and maybe an opportunity to show people what's happening with the dollar so that we can do something about it.
Get some if you can. BuddhaLovesGold.com will take you to our partner Goldco. They have over 6,000 1,000 5-star reviews. This is why now is the time to buy gold and silver, because we have thousands of Americans buying gold today. The rising inflation has reduced our purchasing power. Dysfunctional politics don't work for us. The US dollar has lost over 97% of its value since 1913, while the price of gold has increased over 9,000%. Silver has fared well against the dollar too, with the silver price increasing over 4,500% since 1913. It's about wealth protection. Physical precious metals act as a hedge against dips in volatile markets. Go over to BuddhaLovesGold.com. That's www.BUDDHA, BuddhaLovesGold.com. You will download your free silver and gold guide today, and our great people over there at Goldco will take care of you. That's BuddhaLovesGold.com. You'll see a picture of me right on there, Brad Wozny. And once again, BRICS is the new financial system. Asset-backed precious metals is the way of the future. This is about financial control. Diversifying your assets with gold and silver puts you in control of your wealth at BuddhaLovesGold.com. All right, pretty awesome. Definitely give them a call. Get right over to them and get prepared. If you have questions, these are the guys to talk to. As you heard, they are the #1 precious metals expert, voted for customer service last year. And what we also have to that effect, which is truly amazing, it's actually 8,000 5-star reviews that they have now. So the time that little commercial was recorded, in a period of a few months, at 8,000. So it's literally like having God on speed dial for precious metals. Pretty amazing. Right now, it's all in America. So for all of you around the world, even outside of Canada, Mexico, Australia, New Zealand, Sweden here in the chat, late, thank you very much. South Africa, both Rumble and YouTube here. Appreciate everybody's community and support. I would encourage that you have physical precious metals wherever you are around the world, because it's an effect in the markets. It's a swing back. And we're going to cover that here in just a moment. I'm going to finish up the FAFO side, though, because the FAFO is coming globally, right? And we know it's already been set up. This is not a plan that has been just thrown together willy-nilly over a year since President Trump was brought in. And we had the inauguration of 47 just a year and 3 weeks ago, just shy of a year and 3 weeks ago, right? This time, January 20th. Of last year. It's incredible. No, this has been happening not just with him since 2015 and running 2016 and where we are now. This has actually been going all the way back to the Kennedy administration, President Kennedy. But what you want to focus on right now and feel great about are the full-blown signs that justice is coming everywhere. It's coming worldwide. And to continue to stay the course and focus up and prepare just in case, because we didn't see justice for the Universal Ostrich Farms. I was there. It was just insane. You guys saw me when I was there, and then had the show with Katie Pasitny and everybody right after that. We haven't seen the justice for the WMD war crimes. What you're getting justice for right now are stolen elections, Dominion voting systems, etc., and financial. Everything is going to unwind in its due time, even though I would love it all to just be like this. Like, I'm with you guys. Oh, it'd be amazing, right? But there's a process for things to return sovereignty back to the people on the crash of the cabals, corporations, the illegal, unlawful structure of defrauding everybody and committing heinous war crimes. Here's President Trump, by the way, talking about Maduro before it happened. A little bit of a throwback. So you can see that when he says that something's going to happen, it's going to happen. Here you are.
Maduro offered everything in his country, all the natural resources. He even recorded a message to you in English recently, offering mediation. What should we do in order to stop that?
He has offered everything. He's offered everything. You're right. You know why? Because he doesn't want to fuck around with the United States. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
That's a drop the mic moment right there, isn't it? So let's continue on. because it's all close to you and near and dear to your hearts for sure as well. But what else has been happening around the world, right? We still haven't seen justice for the WMDs in any country yet. Yeah, sure. You had, some 1 or 2 people have been arrested, but we're talking about, I estimate there's 100 million people across the world willingly complicit in these crimes against humanity and children, right? So here it is. The Foreign Policy Canada talked about, the protesters in Venezuela, and Canada and Iran, this is Iran. Canada condemns Iran's use of violence against protesters and urges respect for human rights, including peaceful assembly and freedom of expression. Well, we're almost at the 4-year anniversary of Freedom Convoy in Ottawa. And what you're seeing there is the screen grab of the RCMP who are trampling people on horses, running them into the crowd. And the one man died. You're literally we are seeing the death, the murder of this man on camera in freeze frame. And the other lady in the red jacket right there is an elderly clan mother who had to go to hospital and survived. And all they did was laugh at that. So we know it'll continue to come up. It'll continue to have justice everywhere. Here again is President Trump with respect to the Iranian protesters, right? Stepping in and making it known. This is just January 2nd. This is 2 days ago. If Iran shoots and violently kills peaceful protesters, which is their custom, the United States of America will come to the rescue. We are locked and loaded and ready to go. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And for those who are across China, for those who are across Venezuela, which is the most crime-ridden supposed nation, but being a guy who signed up in the Canadian Armed Forces, was an infantry soldier, and fought forest fires as an initial attack forest firefighter, jumping out of helicopters in Ontario, the Yukon, fighting forest fires. I'm telling everybody that was the best job. It was so much fun. It was incredible. It was the Canada Crown Corporation, and Canada is a business entity. And Canada was registered in July 1st of 1867 in Washington, D.C. So the gloves are off. They know everything. And it's just a matter of weeks to months that all are being arrested. Just like we saw the DOJ announce in California 2 weeks ago that American law enforcement went into Canada and American law enforcement themselves arrested Canadians in Quebec, Ontario, Manitoba, and Alberta, and they had a nationwide manhunt out of Bolo for another one. And we happen to know for a fact that American law enforcement right now is driving certain streets in certain cities in Canada, and they are collecting more intelligence and evidence. So when FAFO and the hammer drops in Canada, it drops in Australia, New Zealand, all the other countries around the world, France, you name it. It's going to be swift. The justice will be fast, and it will be furious, including those who will stand military tribunals. And by the way, here's President Trump calling out, in case people wanted to see this and fact check it, here he is calling out Colombia and what that guy better do.
Simple.
Mr. President, Colombian President Gustavo Petro, a couple weeks ago, he said he's got to watch his ass. And today he said he's not concerned about anything happening to him in the aftermath of this operation. So just what your message is about
he has cocaine mills. He has factories where he makes cocaine. And yeah, I think I stick by my first statement. He's making cocaine. They're sending it into the United States. So he does have to watch his ass.
And that was yesterday at the press conference, right? So you also see them disassembling the Belt and Road Initiative brought in by the Chinese Communist Party for decades, right? It's all being stripped apart, all being pulled out. They know who all the Chinese operatives are. They know who all the deep state are, where across they are. And it's the triage effect, right? Taking out the heads of the snakes. And it happens to be, like I said in the beginning, the year of the snake now until February 16th in the Chinese year. And it's a celebratory year, January 3, 1990, Operation Just Cause in Panama, when they picked up Noriega. So all of these individual bodies are designated foreign terrorist organizations. And FTOs, whether it's domestic inside the borders of the United States or external outside of it, they're all going down. They're all going down. And they are bringing a dragnet to ensure that there is a full-on capture of all of those deep staters, mitigate any harm to peaceful civilian non-combatants who are flying the white flag of parley, not surrender, parley. Stay tuned for tomorrow on that. And then President Trump, meanwhile, is just going out there and crushing it economically in the business of America. I mean, look at this, right? Here's the post on the White House website with regards to, and this is again, just 48 hours ago, 2.5 million native-born Americans gained employment already in the past year. 670,000 foreign-born workers lost employment over the past year. So the business engine of America and the dividend payments which are coming to Americans is freaking amazing. Trump has already said that we are bringing in, right from his desk in the Oval Office, we are bringing in so much money that very soon no American will ever have to pay income tax again. And again, DeSantis put forward just a week ago, and he's been saying this for months, he's putting forward, he's made it in Florida, property taxes, Americans don't need to pay it. But he goes, everybody should be like this. And that's exactly what you're doing. You're going back to 1776 in this Jubilee year for everyone to celebrate on and everyone to enjoy. And we're also looking at the congressional corruption as well. So that FAFO is getting out of the way, because here it is yesterday from the capture from an intelligence asset inside the Maduro regime organization. Right on Jack Straw said, hey, you know, the merde is about to hit the ventilateur. Merde, that's French. I'm doing a little bit here. So here's a list of those of every U.S. senator from Venezuela who took money from Venezuela and supported the importation of Tren de Agua and all the other gang members, the rapists, the serial murderers, the pedophiles, the traffickers, when they emptied their prisons, sent them up through Pine Gap, or even flew them into the United States. It's all out there. So that's treason, and that's death by hanging, or that's death by injection, or that's death by shot to the head, right? Firing squad. They're all there. That's FAFO right now. It's all here. And it's absolutely amazing where we all are at this point in time. The final part that you all get to understand, appreciate, and enjoy is Cuba. As I mentioned to you in reading the Substack article, as I bring it up here on the screen, the Substack article from Generals Valley and McInerney, what we have here is Cuba likely becoming a territory of America. What a way to lock stuff down, right? And here's Department of State, Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, discussing this as a very real potential capability.
But I don't think it's any mystery that we are not big fans of the Cuban regime, who, by the way, are the ones that were propping up Maduro. His entire internal security force, his internal security apparatus is entirely controlled by Cubans. One of the untold stories here is how, in essence, you talk about colonization, because I think you said Dulce Rodriguez mentioned that the ones who have sort of colonized, at least inside the regime, are Cubans. It was Cubans that guarded Maduro. He was not guarded by Venezuelan bodyguards. He had Cuban bodyguards. In terms of their internal intelligence, who spies on who inside to make sure there are no traitors, those are all Cubans.
And there you are. And that coming from a Cuban refugee in the United States, right? Amazing. So here we have it to lock down and take it down all across the board and restoring it to one nation under God and the protection of it, and restoring sovereignty and wealth to the people of America and in their own countries, right? Because when I talked about Canada, which is the worst crime-ridden nation in the world, just remember, here's a few stats. From CSIS themselves, they claimed 4,000, this is from CSIS, 4,000 terrorist organizations and criminal gangs in Canada. It's a deep state stronghold. Carney, in his first meeting with Trump at the White House, said, I have met with the owners of Canada and they're unhappy. The owners of the corporation in Washington, D.C., right? 14.7 million Canadians were to be executed by the Canadian government. It was funded. And that got outed in November. Remember, I posted that on the show, all out there, all the documentation straight from the government. The plans for 14.7 million of us to be executed. 15.8 million have been imported. So when you have the second largest landmass in the world, in terms of what's supposed to be a nation behind Russia, but it's really a corporation, and you've imported 1/3 of the population since 2015, and you took it up to 30-ish, 35 million, and nearly 16 million of them are all imported from the third world on top of everything, that's an invasion. They're heavily involved in RICO. That's why Norman Traversy was able to launch the lawsuit on the RCMP, on Trudeau for the SNC-Lavalin. And again, that involved human trafficking and fraud. Now we're so much more, right? And what we've covered with the letters to the Judge Advocate Generals, with the quo warrantos that we have sent and we have served. And again, we had Delta Force, as I mentioned earlier, take out the servers from the Privy Council office, and F-18 flyers. When you're talking about a real war, which has been going on, remember everybody in Canada, Trudeau at the time in 2020, because of lockdown, Canada Day is canceled. But over Parliament buildings in Ottawa, you had C-130s and F-18s, Royal Canadian Air Force F-18s flying over. Same thing July 1st of 2021 and 2022, when Canada Day was canceled and no government fireworks were allowed to be sent out there. You still had the military showing their wings and flying over all of us and confirming that, even in Cheyenne, Wyoming, on the Truth Tour. And so here we are with GESARA, which is, again, the Global Economic Security and the Reformation Act. And President Trump's special advisor, David Sachs, who, remember, this is a guy who was on the board of directors of Ripple, XRP Ledger, and XRP is its digital asset token. He just declared 2 days ago that in response to socialism, the crime-ridden cities in America, Miami will be the new financial capital. Miami is going to replace New York City. And Austin, Texas is going to be the tech capital. It's going to replace San Francisco. So no more Silicon Valley, no more Wall Street. That's it. It's Miami, lovely Miami Strip, fantastic. Ice Ice Baby, Vanilla Ice. He played at Mar-a-Lago on New Year's Eve. And then you have Austin, Texas, which again, they're building massive AI facilities well under construction right now in the millions of square feet in Texas. And Texas is the first state in the United States to have the ability to accept. It was the first mover to say, we are going back to gold and silver and taking that as legal tender for everybody per the Constitution of the state of Texas and the Republic of America. So with the Monroe Doctrine bringing this all in, with the fact that we have XRP on rails, as I showed in the last two shows, Senate Sunday last week, and I showed it again on the GESARA the day after that, right before New Year's. XRP Ledger is already instituted, up and running. The tests are already passed. It's live, and it's running the backbone for all of America's banks. And you want to look at ISO 20022 tokens. So I'm going to be discussing now, as we moved into this frame of the conversation, gold, silver, and the quantum financial system. And it's important for you to have the comprehension, the QFS is up and running, why it's on XRP Ledger and RippleNet as we move forward on gold and silver. So everybody, what's really key for you is to have an ISO 20022 token, right? And one of those capabilities that it gives you to do is tokenize an asset on the blockchain. And that's exactly what the US Treasury has done. And I've shown that they've been doing here since the beginning, that they passed the Genius Act in August, and they minted $500 billion, $500 billion in 12 days on stablecoins for the US Treasury. I mean, that is just astronomical when you look at it from that standpoint, that you have the ability to get this minted as a digital asset backed up by something tangible in the ground. So that's XRP, XLM, silver, and XDC on copper. What's incredible too, speaking of copper, is it was just reported this weekend that we have all copper bullion dealers in America are out. People have bought copper up and are holding on to it. It's incredible. So what you see now is we're going back to what President Kennedy assigned, which is where this all comes back to. Remember, Eisenhower warned in his final day, his last speech, about the military-industrial complex. And then President Kennedy warned about the military-industrial complex. He also warned about the very idea of secret societies is repugnant to the Constitution and the very values for which America stands. And he issued EO 11110 5 months before his assassination. And that was to give American people back the currency, a silver standard, because he knows what happened in 1913 with the Federal Reserve, the FBI, the ADL, and the IRS brought in under the 1913 Act. And that stole the wealth from America. And then for all of us, rest of us, our ancestors around the world, it stole the wealth from them. Because what they did is they took gold, precious metals, and they traded that for paper that they printed, which is really nowhere near as good as holding something physical and tangible in your hand. And they initiated the Gold Act of 1913. And in that act, if anybody ever saw it, and I'll just search over here for the write-up in the paper, that it was the greatest gold robbery ever. I spent nearly 45 minutes doing an entire show about this 21-year history, and I've got it up here to show everybody because this will tie into what I said in the beginning of this show. The great robbery of 1933. When I said at the beginning of the show about sovereignty versus the legal, unlawful system that is created in the City of London, registered the British Accreditation Registry, is that they can just make their own laws legal, call it legal, and take it from you. So remember that. Nearly 70% tax rates in the dirty 30s after the crash that was manipulated and done at the behest of the deep state. And what did FDR do? He signed Executive Order 6102, which was turn in all your gold or you get a $10,000 fine or 10 years in prison. And here it is at the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank in New York City on April 5, 1933. Where did I get this from? Judy Shelton. She just posted this 48 hours ago. And Judy Shelton, if everybody forgets, is Trump's economic advisor in his first term. So once again, they said, having gold is illegal. You must give it to us, and we will give you Federal Reserve notes, or you go to prison for 10 years and pay $10,000, which is a freaking fortune in 1933. And they took the gold from America, all the Americans. They paid them $22.50 per ounce of gold. And then 8 months later, well, that was August, but it started in May. 8 months later, right before December 31st of 1933, FDR said, all this gold is worth $31 an ounce now. Wait, so you paid me $22.50 under duress and coercion that I would go to prison for 10 years and I'd have to pay a $10,000 fine in the Great Depression. Took it and gave me $22.50 of this toilet paper that's green that you say has value, but it's not backed by anything. And then you instantly say it's $31 an ounce. You gave yourself a 35% pay raise nearly? Yeah, that's what we did. We've got the military. We've got the deep state on our side. We've got the stock exchange. And we're going to take your family, murder you, or throw you in jail. And that's exactly what they did. This is the restoration we're seeing around the world because they stole it then from all the countries in the world. And how did they do that? FDR turned around and said, with our Federal Reserve Bank, and now the U.S. Treasury is under his control legally, not lawfully, They said anybody who owes debts to America must pay in gold, but America will pay its debts on US greenbacks, toilet paper. And that's how they stole the gold from everybody. This is a repatriation all across the world of a Global Economic Security and Reformation Act. We already saw that, as I showed, from Syria to Iraq to the new exchange online this month going live in Iraq, its own foreign service exchange, its ability to trade currencies around the world. It has already stood up. It is already working and operational. It already has just waiting for the moment, the word that the IQD has its revaluation. Because on December 31st, the United Nations ended their 22-year occupancy in Iraq. And Iraq gave $2 billion to the people of Iran just 4 days ago. And they said these were $2 billion in seized assets. Now we can see the regime is on its last leg. Now all of you are demanding freedom. Now we have Christianity sweeping the land. More Christians in 20 years have been converted in Iran to Christianity than in 13 centuries. Now we can see the freedom is happening. We are here to support our brothers and sisters in Iran, in Persia, the former Persian Empire, where Cyrus the Great came from and took down the towers of Babylon. Folks, this is not only freaking biblical, it's happening before your eyes. Again, January 1st, we just saw silver at $130 an ounce in Tokyo, 80 in Shanghai, 95 in the UAE, and $71 in New York. The same day, same silver spot price, massive disparity. But tomorrow, the stock exchanges in America open. Tomorrow, probably going to see a massive shorts, which have already been put in Canadian oil stocks, because now Trump has access to $303 billion of oil for America, for the people of Venezuela, and they're going to be pumping out and manufacturing up to 2 million barrels of oil a day. That's astronomical. Here's the statistic on that. It is that if they are pumping out at a current $57 per barrel cost right now on their existing capacity of 303 billion barrels of oil, getting long in talking all day long here in different shows and what I was doing, then that equates to $17.3 trillion in wealth for Venezuela's people, just from oil, not even the other precious and rare earth minerals in the ground. That's incredible. That is incredible. And we have 60% of the global supply of silver now locked up behind China's borders. And unless you have the ability to make 80 tons of silver, raw silver concentrate annually in China, you can't get an export license. And what also happened on January 1st, Chinese ports, let me just find the image, and it was translated from Mandarin over here, the Chinese exchange. I'm searching for it on another laptop screen, excuse me. If I find it, I'll get it up there. Anyways, you can find this online too. That China closed down and refused to ship 50 million ounces. 50 million ounces. Here it is. Got it. Stand by for this. Look at this. So this is translated from Mandarin. Official confirmation from the Shanghai Port Authority as of 11:47 p.m. local time, December 31. Chinese ports have begun refusing to ship silver cargoes to delivery warehouses approved by COMEX and the New York Mercantile Exchange. And the U.S. proposal was extremely straightforward. We need to urgently purchase 50 million ounces of silver immediately and obtain export permits, pay with U.S. Treasury bonds, and bypass SWIFT through bilateral currency swaps. Beijing rejected it. 50 million ounces. What did we also just see? The repo facility from the Federal Reserve Bank was tapped on the last day of trading this year, on December 30th, to cover $76 billion of short positions, margin calls. I saw that the CME called 45,000 contracts. So what does that mean? It means that the big guys are hemorrhaging, and paper, which is worth nothing, when you have a ratio like an ETF, right? 375. I'll go back to the ISO token image here in a second. So remember, ETFs, they sit here and they say, great, buy silver. Okay, great. So you have a 378 to 1 ratio. That means 378 people own an IOU, a piece of paper, against one part of silver. Again, fractional reserve banking, fractional reserve investing, and that's fractional investment, which has been happening all across the board, right? But guess what? If the 378, somebody picks up the phone and calls their broker and says, I want to liquidate my position and take physical silver, and they do that, the other 377 people are left hanging. Piece of paper that's worthless. It's not backed by anything. That's the shorts market. That's the papers market, because they're saying it's backed by stuff on these contracts. But when you have a capital call or a margin call, which then says, hey, do I want to take cash or do I want the physical bullion? This is what's happening. People are realizing I want the physical bullion because you're seeing the crash of the dollar and they want the bullion, which is skyrocketing. So we have a massive, massive demand and extremely tiny supply of silver and other precious metals. And once again, they'll all be tokenized this year on all of the exchanges. So again, here's your ISO 20022 chart. Remember, everybody had to, all the banks all across the world had to be up and converted to this new system off of SWIFT, running on XRP Ledger, as we've seen. And it's already done, from Basel in Switzerland to the EU to New York to Toronto. The ones that made it are running on XRP Ledger. We know JP Morgan is on it. We know Bank of America is on it. We know US Bank is on it. Why? Because they pumped this out. I showed you on the last show, Franklin Templeton put a 1.3 trillion. It was actually $1.35 trillion bet on XDC Stellar, which you can see right there. And they're actually running it right now to do tokenization in Asia. So here it all is. It's done. The quantum financial system's active. Nobody came around and sent you a letter in the mail and said, Jasar's here, QFS is active. No, it's just happened, right? And we have people who have sat there as complete morons who do not have an open mind and go, well, I thought Jasar was going to be trillions of dollars in my lap. Like, that'd be freaking awesome. That would be amazing as a sovereign to be able to sit here and go to your straw man and say, they have my straw man account there. They've taken out all the bonds on me. I'm worth hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, et cetera. My family's worth is trillions of dollars because these guys have quadrillions and quintillions, real number, quintillions in the world. So they're like, you know, a couple grand, a couple million, and a few billion to them is a sniffle. It's nothing when they're dealing with quintillions. They've been hiding from all of us. But no, it didn't happen that way. It's happening this way to bring everybody onto board while they arrest and take off the board for life, for good, for forever. The worst of the worst, penalize those who are kind of at the middle layers, and then restructure everything and return it to proper law, natural law, divine law across the world. And you are a slave no more. This is epic. It's a Jubilee year for the freaking planet, for everybody who's been good, everybody who's been benevolent. If there are pharmacists who've been injecting people and knowing that it's harmful, guess what? They're probably going to go away for life. If there are other ones who've been doing it worse than that, purposely murdering people, that's a death penalty. Because there are probably, again, in my estimates, over 100 million willingly complicit in crimes against humanity when we look at it from this standpoint. So when we go back to silver, and we know, as Q has said, gold ends the Fed. Since day one, during the dash, President Trump has been saying that we have liquid gold under our feet. We are in a golden age. America is coming upon a golden age. Then when he was inaugurated, right after being voted in on November 5th last year, the golden age of America begins now. Then the White House website says that right now. It's on the White House website. It's on the profile. It's on Twitter feed. It's on True Social. The golden age of America begins now. It's on the White House website. President Trump keeps talking about the golden age. Gold ends the Fed. He is here finishing what President Kennedy started. President Kennedy is the starter, and President Trump is the finisher. And that's exactly why we have videos like this. It's time for a good funny and a good laugh as we finalize the rest of the evening here, wrap it up, and show you what's already been shown as silver getting to 1,180 an ounce this year. And likely it's probably going to go much higher.
Beep, beep, vibe is running. Beep, 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 vibe is running. Beep, 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 vibe is running. Beep, 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 bassline's hitting and the vibe is running. Stepping in the rave, yeah, the rhythm is right.
All right, I love that video. It's so great. The little watermark of whoever created it is on there. It's even hard for me to read. So kudos to all of you. Keep doing that. Keep doing the great work. The video memes, the regular memes, it's just awesome, right? It's really powerful for all of us to see that, to have a laugh, to lift up our vibration, levity, as we say here in the ethos on the show. So, gematria, 589. I know I have more questions and people. I said the power of 589. You've been seeing Catherine Pham, who was appointed by Trump, helping run American 250, part of the crypto financial trade thing official. I'm sorry, Catherine, if you're watching. I'm bungling the name of what it is that you are the chairwoman for. But again, appointed by Trump, right? And friends with Brad Garlinghouse of Ripple. So this goes to Bishop Jim O'Connor, whom I completely credit with bringing this forward, everybody. And it's on the 589, the power of 589, because it kept saying 2026, the ball's dropping in Times Square. That's another calm how that went down, right? But they said there's 589 light bulbs, 589. Well, what did we see? 589 light bulbs. When you look at it from gematria, the gematria on 589 equals Donald Trump. Isn't that interesting? Gematria in 589 also equals some other pretty powerful items like Thomas Anderson, who, remember Neo, the Matrix, Red Pill, all those great things which came around. It also means gold ends Fed. So real powerful if you just go to a gematria calculator, you punch it in. And then Bishop Jim O'Connor also said this. 589 BC, Nebuchadnezzar started his siege of Jerusalem. So guy coming in from Babylon, take down Jerusalem. But in 589 AD, 1,000 years, China began reuniting as a country, and Catholicism replaced Arianism in Spain. Okay, well, Brad, we're talking about that. So 1,000 years, 589, what's more powerful than that? It also applies to the Ripple, Rails, and Ledger. And yeah, maybe it could also apply to a price from XRP to the moon in 2011 when it first came out with Ripple. What's been said, maybe it'll go to 100,000. We'll see. We'll see. But what we also have with 589 showing us is that great things are coming because it's being echoed across the cultural hemisphere of all the financial circles, from the Treasury Department to those who know, like Carolyn DeFam and Garlinghouse himself and the CTO of Ripple, Mr. Schwartz. How does this apply to silver? I showed you the silver warrior here on the US debt clock, posted again last week, right? And what is that silver warrior dressed here with a sword of silver and a gold handle doing? He is cutting the dark black pyramid of the cabal, which has the emblem of the Federal Reserve on it, in half. And on the coins on the screen, you see President John Fitzgerald Kennedy going back to EO 11110. And we know that we are just weeks away this month when the Sovereign Wealth Fund, which is the Sovereign Wealth Reserve for America, was set up and announced last year that it has been active, that they're going to come back out with a press conference of how much they have earned and how much of a dividend Americans are going to get. And finally, showing right here, just on January 1st, posted the great silver breakout. 1913, silver was $2.66 an ounce, and it's foreshadowing 2026 to 1,180 per ounce. When you just factor in on January 1st what happened in December 31st, that you had the Fed Reserve repo facility that had been tapped for over $90 billion in a weekly time frame to cover short positions by the banks. When you also factor in that China just locked up all exports and 60% of all silver exports vanished from the global scene. When you look at the fact that LBMA and the London Mercantile and even the New York Mercantile are having a problem shipping silver to cover the positions and get it, we are all set to go to have this smoke it right to the roof. And also just announced by the U.S. Department of War that they have invested $2 billion into a smelter so they can take the raw concentrate of silver and other precious metals and rare earth minerals and add another $5 billion investment into it, the U.S. Department of War, so that they are self-sustaining and don't need to rely on other global partnerships or global trade deals in order to manufacture weapons, equipment, and be 100% sovereign in America for their warfighting machine, peace through strength. So what we've got now is the greatest ride ahead of us, everybody. And I really hope people have silver, because I've shown you the disparity between the ratio relationship of silver and gold over all of the shows from the last 6 months. Coming up here, we said in the summertime, silver would be $50 an ounce by the end of the summer. Juan07 and I are on there. He's saying this will happen. 29 days later, it happened. Well, then it's probably going to go up to 70. Guess what? Less than 60 days later, that happened. Now you have it crossing the threshold past 75, up to 80, up to 84 in the U.S. marketplace, and up to 130 overseas. And when tomorrow, when the markets open, we are probably going to see the biggest rally that you've ever seen. It's going to be amazing. We'll also see all the paper contracts, trades, ETFs, likely for those that are supposed to be precious metals backed. It'll be freaking chaos and pandemonium, in my opinion. But for those of you who are holding your physical silver, holding physical bullion, whether you have it in storage like Goldco, you can get it, put it in a depository, or they ship it right to you and you have it like physical. Take it physically, stuff that's tangible, right? Like here's a piece of silver. You can put it on your body, or maybe you have a crate like some other people are buying it by the crate load. David Bateman, the billionaire who bought $1.6 billion worth of silver, that's 4.5% of the the global supply in the springtime of this year. $1.6 billion in silver. He gave 100-ounce silver bars to all of his kids and his grandkids for Christmas. And he said many of them held it. They had no idea that this is going to pay for their college education, just 100 ounces. And as of today, checking before I came on, all of the copper has been sold out of every American exchange dealer and on every major American exchange, whether it's SD Bullion, etc. All of the silver 10-ounce, 100-ounce, 1,000-ounce, and 1 kilogram bars are sold out. Sold out. And the prices are jacked extremely high in preparation for what's going to happen tomorrow, Monday, January 5th. So I encourage everybody in America, all you sovereign souls, there's that free report. Get prepared. Get it from us through Goldco. Call their number. It's toll free first thing in the morning. It's a free consultation. And as I've been saying since the very beginning of this show in 2022, there are 5 ways to thrive in 2025 and beyond. This is one of them, and it has been correct. And I'm so fortunate and blessed to have you all here and really appreciate it. Hope you have a great week ahead. Tomorrow, we've got some stuff to cover off on Venezuela. And I'm joined with special guest Daniel Warren Oak. He is back. That man is the sovereign sensei. He has paid dearly for trying to help the world with what he's been doing. So we're going to cover some incredible information, including the actual military tribunals, which are being conducted and those who are being taken off the scene quietly right now in the background. Some of the stuff you can talk about, which is truly amazing. So thank you very much, everybody, for being here. I'll play this one more time. For Goldco with 8,000 5-star reviews. Remember, it says 6. That was recorded a few months ago. 8,000 5-star reviews. They are the #1 precious metals expert in America, voted #1 in customer service last year. And they are like having God on speed dial for all your precious metals needs. You're not going to hear any of this from your investment advisor or your stockbroker because they can't sell you physical silver or gold bullion. They can't do this for you. They can only do paper. That paper stuff, it's about to vanish 100% from that standpoint. So here you are, and we'll talk to you all later. Have a great night. All right, you sovereign souls, now is the time to protect your money with gold and silver if you already have not. And if you are and you have a chance to do so, I highly encourage to do so even more, because gold and silver will launch the golden age, which Commander-in-Chief Trump has continuously referenced.
The dollar is going down, and it's not a pretty picture, and it's not being sustained by proper policy and proper thinking. This was an opportunity, and maybe an opportunity to show people what's happening with the dollar so that we can do something about it.
Get some if you can. BuddhaLovesGold.com will take you to our partner Goldco. They have over 6,000 5-star reviews. This is why now is the time to buy gold and silver, because we have thousands of Americans buying gold today. The rising inflation has reduced our purchasing power. Dysfunctional politics don't work for us. The US dollar has lost over 97% of its value since 1913, while the price of gold has increased over 9,000%. Silver has fared well against the dollar too, with the silver price increasing over 4,500% since 1913. It's about wealth protection. Physical precious metals act as a hedge against dips in volatile markets. Go over to BuddhaLovesGold.com. That's www.BUDDHA, BuddhaLovesGold.com. You will download your free silver and gold guide today, and our great people over there at Goldco will take care of you. That's BuddhaLovesGold.com. You'll see a picture of me right on there, Brad Wozny. And once again, BRICS is the new financial system. Asset-backed precious metals is the way of the future. This is about financial control. Diversifying your assets with gold and silver puts you in control of your wealth at BuddhaLovesGold.com. Thanks for joining us on the program, ladies and gentlemen. Please like, follow, subscribe, share this with 9 friends and family. And of course, if you enjoy our blinged Buddha firing red pills from his 9mm, let us know.